And welcome. Hello, everyone. This is an episode of From Depression to Expression. And today I have the pleasure to talk to Neha Sonney, which is the author of Wired for Self-Love, a new book that is coming out or is out when this podcast is live. And I had the pleasure to talk to Neha Sonney on my other podcast, the Oliver Schirach Show, about a year ago. And her story and her favorite colors and secrets so many people know can be heard there. So welcome again.
Thank you so much, Oliver. It's a pleasure to be back on your second podcast.
Yeah, second interview, second podcast. You yourself are a podcast host, and as I just mentioned, an author of a book. You're a speaker, you're a personal coach, and everything in your world is around love.
That's right.
And relationships and self-finding, right? So we've been dabbling in that in the first episode, and your favorite color, I cannot leave it out, is turquoise, because everything on the video is, for the ones which see the video, everything around you is turquoise and white. So
teal, turquoise, everything in that range.
Yeah, it's very prominent here in this video now, in the setup you have. And the people will realize you're in Hong Kong, I'm in Denmark, so there's a bit of a time difference. So you just mentioned you will have a sunset coming, while I'm hopefully having a little bit more sun, because it's morning for me.
Yeah.
So we haven't really talked much since we had the interview, but a lot happened. You were writing a book, you were doing a lot of self-finding. So how has that process been for you? Why did you write the book?
Before I say why I wrote the book, it's not like I thought I would write the book. I never thought about it in the first place. Like I thought maybe once I'm in my 50s, I would think about writing a book. But then that kind of happened. The opportunity arrived 10 years early. And it was there. It was there. I think timing was perfect. And I was already in touch with my book coach. I had seen his talks. I had studied his material. We built a rapport together. And he's a self-published author. So the program I entered was a self-publishing. This book is self-published. And interestingly, I thought that, okay, I know everything I need to know about self-love. I've been meditating all of these years, doing so much work on myself. So I thought this book is going to be very easy to write. Well, Oliver, and for the listeners, you will be interested to find that I was procrastinating. This self-love person that I call myself self-love advocate was procrastinating and had all the issues that come up with procrastination. And the core of that happened to be my ego was in the way. And I discovered that, and I talk about it, how I overcome that. And this, you asked me why I wrote this book. Before I say why I wrote this book, I will tell you this. It was important for me to write this book because I was about to preach the world. So I thought it's a good idea to take my own advice and actually practice what I have to teach the world. If I don't practice it, how can I teach them? So this book actually taught me to deepen my relationship with myself and really practice, all that things that I learned about self-love, to put that to practice even more deeply. So this was all about discipline. Writing your book, I realized, is so much about discipline. Writing changes your brain. So now that I'm out of that process, I feel like I don't think there could have been another way to have written this book. It came up in the best way possible. That I don't have a why I wrote this book. Now that I have written it, I realize that if people, whoever reads this book, if they come out a little bit more integrated and at peace with themselves, a little bit more confident, a little bit more guidance, a little bit more love for themselves, compassion for themselves, my book will have achieved its purpose.
Yeah, more self-love, more self-acceptance. What the book is about, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, people, when I have a frog in my throat, somehow I told Neha already I drank some water. Don't want to overdo it, otherwise we have to stop in between. But I got the pleasure to actually read the book before it's launched, and also to give some feedback. And it's a blend between teaching and storytelling for me. And you also mention it in the book. You start reading, and then somewhere in the middle of the book you come and mention the procrastination, that you just got stuck, that you thought you know it all, and why should you go out and research more? And then you started meditating on it. And what did you say? What was it? Coffee or caffeine intake increased, and chips or whatever food to not work. And you used one of your tools. What was the tool you used to actually find out that your ego is in your way?
If I look back now, I realized I was procrastinating, and then I came to know, okay, what was I actually doing? So procrastination, that's when I understood I was procrastinating, and then I stopped having tea. Because I was having tea, that was my escape. And baking bread, that was my escape. So it's like, because I cannot complete like the task of researching, I go and do other things that are less important. But because I'm accomplishing a little something, it makes me feel like I am, crushing a little something. So anything like eating something also is going to be like, oh, I finished doing something.
Instead of
But
what you wanted.
eating, exactly. But this is the thing with emotional eating. I realized, like, I was eating away at my emotions. And a lot of people do this without even realizing. This is unconscious, this is subconscious. So because you don't want to face those negative emotions, the ego, of course, doesn't like to change anything that is different, is challenging, it is unsafe. So why should I do that? I was going through all of those emotions. So it's not like it's not the first time that I had removed tea from my diet. So I said, let me try this. And then I removed tea from my diet. And so together with the tea, the bread and everything goes away. And then I experienced caffeine withdrawal. And I know it's horrible. I was bearing through those headaches. And after I came out of that, I was really focused. And I just went through the step by step of all the research that I needed to do. I said, now there is no stopping me. There is complete focus. You have my full attention. Neha, let's do this. You have wasted enough time over this. You have procrastinated enough. And now teach this to others.
Yeah, because it is in the book, right? So it looks like it was not planned to be in there, but you experienced it, but it fits so well with self-love.
Absolutely.
Because the more self-love and self-acceptance, but we go in there, you have, the more you will achieve. So you learned you were procrastinating, and I think to remember, you procrastinated because your ego thought you are the expert, you're a coach on self-love, so you know it all. So why should I research? Because I have it all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And by realizing that you're procrastinating by making tea, drinking coffee, black tea, I assume, right? So it wasn't green tea, um, and baking
Right.
bread and
Yeah.
eating, you're like, what am I doing? And then like, oh, I'm procrastinating. Well, why am I procrastinating? Oh, because I feel like I'm an expert, so I don't need to do this thing. But
Yeah.
it's inside you, you know you should do it. So now you had this
Yeah.
inner conflict,
Yeah.
which you
And
then
that's
removed.
where, yeah, absolutely. And then thank you for reminding me, because this is where it's very easy to get upset and angry with myself and say, what are you doing? How can you do this? Why can't you just get over yourself and all that? Instead, I thought, how can I be more loving to myself? And instead of being harsh, I mean, I have been dealt with in a harsh way, so that would be like my go-to method. But it takes, like, a different kind of strength to, like, to pull back and stay present to my habits in order for me to undo those and do different, be different. How can I be kinder to myself? That's where I talk about the self-compassion. When people are not able to control their food, their diets, it's hard for them. Instead of um, just shaming or hating themselves, not feeling good about themselves, instead, if they say, I know you did something that is not in alignment with you, you feel like you've done something wrong, but it's okay. You are human, and we learn from our mistakes.
Mm.
We can be better. Let's try. Let's give us another chance.
Yeah.
So I gave myself another chance.
Yeah. And you finished the book, and I was so happy. I also wrote a little review from my side. So for me, it was feeling for the last 2-3 years that I'm consciously going down this spiritual self-finding, self-growing, accepting path, because I've been for too long crying out and asked for help. But
Yeah.
the system normally, of course, I must have had a few psychologues which gave me some advice, but it was on the surface when I had so many layers to actually remove that it didn't go where it should.
Mm.
So it, for me, it was kind of a gathering of many of these different teachings I learned,
Mm.
from books, from podcasts, from TED Talks, whatever it is. So I was like, wow, this is so nice. And we also write it in a way which is very simple. Like you go
Mm.
very on a simple way. There's no, you need to stand on one leg and put the other one cross-legged over, and then the hands over your head. And now you breathe in through the head in your belly, and you think of Alahanga Gika Kuka, and you will and you do that 100 times. Now it's very simple. So very simple, applicable tools throughout the book. So
Thank you.
I, I really love it. So I want to reread it, and I have a lot of different highlights. So the book is about self-love. What is self-love?
Self-love is developing the discipline to understand that you can be better. And from being better, you can do better and have better. Knowing yourself and taking the time to know yourself so that you can be in touch with your own wisdom. There is tons of information outside on the internet and the books and social media, but where in the world do they teach you about you? Who are you? Who could you be? Who are you without your limiting beliefs? How will you find that out? Those answers come from this space of self-love and developing the discipline to deeply listen to yourself. And by listening to yourself, I mean listen to your body because it communicates to you. Listen for the thoughts that come up because you are the person who is listening with yourself for the rest of your life. You've been there. So you talk to yourself all the time, but are you talking nonsense or are you talking sense? Are you talking to yourself in a loving way? So if you communicate in the language that where you feel loved, appreciation for yourself, do you think you can do better? I believe so.
Yeah, so it's basically, you also mention in the book a lot about self-acceptance.
Uh-huh.
You have you start the book that self-love is only available for you or possible if you self-accept yourself. No,
It
of
starts.
course. Self-accept yourself. Okay, that's kind of
Yeah, you
but yeah,
got
right.
it.
You mentioned, I think it was like a 3-step process to get to self-love. But how can you mention it here? Self-acceptance is basically to listen to your own thoughts. How do you talk to yourself? Accept the way you are at the moment, but also understand that you can be more. And we are not more because we have these limiting beliefs. And these limiting beliefs, they are based on core beliefs, I think you were talking about, right? And you
Yeah,
have also an exercise about finding out what are your core beliefs.
yeah.
Of course, I took your list and then I started to highlight them. And then I went on the internet immediately to get a list of 200 core beliefs.
Wow.
I didn't look at them, but I thought like the list you gave me a good
Are you
picture,
talking
right?
about core beliefs or values?
Oh no, that was values. Sorry. Yes, there we go. See?
Ah. Yeah,
I
I
should.
know the values. There's a huge list,
Yeah,
but for convenience, this is what I was advised to do, and I think it's good to have at least something
it's
for
a
people
good
to.
list. It's a good.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, values. It's a good list.
Yes.
But how is that now? Yeah, now that I made the mix up here, so now is the core beliefs, limiting beliefs, and values connected, if they're connected.
So core beliefs are usually I am not good enough, I am not worthy of love, I am um, just a lot of I am blah 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 beliefs, whatever it is, and they are formed when you're very young and too young to have like an understanding of what those even mean. But it's from your immediate environment, your caregivers, communication that is going on around you, your parents, your teachers, beliefs about money, beliefs about relationships, belief about yourself. Are you worthy? All of those things. So that's how those are formed. And then your values, your values are how you live your life on a daily basis because you decide your priorities based on that. So it's better to know what those are, what your core values are. And I would say come down to 5 of those and understand what those are and how you are living your values. And so one way to find out if you're in alignment or not is to say, okay, if I pay, if I get money for this particular value, am I going to give it up? Which means that let's say, give for example, if my value is health, and if someone gives me, okay, here's $1,000, here, have this piece of heavy cream laden cake, am I going to give up on that value of mine before $1,000? If I'm taking those $1,000 and giving up my value, that means that's not a core value. It's not my value. So
Yeah.
that's a challenge. So we live our daily life based on value. So it's good to know how we are making those decisions. But you talk about core beliefs, our core beliefs are running the show. The core beliefs are coming from our subconscious. And one of the ways I mentioned in the book, and I talk deeply about meditation, and this is where meditation comes very handy, is where you come to know, because in meditation, if you do it right, you will come to a place where you are able to listen to yourself and hold yourself in that space where you can detach from everything that is going on, but just watch and witness yourself. So even the thoughts that are going on in your mind, you will be able to catch them. Oh, this was a thought. And this was a thought I had. And you need to really slow down in order for you to do that. So meditation allows you to do that. And then when you realize through meditation, you come to know that this was something that I was told, but is this true? And through meditation, this is what I learned for myself. And if other people also learn about themselves, what the world cannot tell them, nobody can tell them about themselves, they will learn through meditation. So this is where my core beliefs about myself were challenged. I was told I was worthless, I was useless, I'm not going to make anything of myself through childhood. But then I reflect, I see myself in reflection in a reflection of the relationships I have, and how I'm improving on myself as a person every day. What work am I putting in? Am I better than before yesterday? Am I kinder to myself? Am I kinder to my child? Am I being better than what I have seen? And so what I was told about myself, how true is that in my life today? Just because I was told I'm unworthy of love, does it mean I do not deserve love? So there is this contrast over here. I'm like, oh, I was told this, but is that you stand to question yourself? Like that's where you question your core beliefs.
Yeah, exactly. So I was
challenge them.
Yeah, there's of course core beliefs, values, meditation, your story. So that's like try to somehow bind it together. So do you think, I do not remember what you wrote in the book, but core, sorry, my frog is really here. It's persistent today. The core beliefs, are they indirectly or directly influencing your values? So the way how you choose during the day, as you said, I am a healthy person and I'm always eating salad and healthy beef because some people need meat, right? And then don't eat cake. But if you give me $1,000, I will eat a cake. You think these core beliefs you have are influencing the values, and when you start to understand the core beliefs you're holding, I'm not good enough, I will never make enough money, this is how life is, right? I mean, a core belief is like we have to work from 8, what is it, Americans say 9 to 5. In Switzerland it was more like 8 to 5 or something like that. This is a core belief, right? Does that influence your values, or are they really separated, or will they change depending on how, when you find out what your core beliefs are and you can say, hey, no, this is not true, this is just something I learned through politics, school, parents, friends, TV, and now absolutely. I can. So they're absolutely connected.
There would be. I would look at them separately, because if we put these two together, it may confuse the people even more.
Yeah.
That's why I have them in 2 separate chapters, dealing with them and working on the core beliefs separately, then realizing, okay, because our core values barely change. Sometimes our priorities become like go a little bit up and down, but our core beliefs will remain. Like core values, core beliefs, we can change. Values, they don't change too much. So it's important to find out how we are living our values on a daily basis. If someone is valuing their health, let's say, then they will, okay, they start their day with exercise, or I will take care of my health, drink water, whatever whatever their routine is. So sticking with that, going to bed early, blah blah blah, eating healthy. That's your way. I mean, if health is important to you, you are going to live that value throughout your day. You're going to make decisions about what I'm supposed to be eating. Oh, so you're going to make a healthier choice between two that are given on a given day. Make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, it's now what it doesn't make sense in my case, in my personal
Hmm.
case, is like for
Hmm.
me, bodily, emotionally, spiritual health. I mean, for me, for a long time, it was only the body, right? We're on the world, we are in a, how to say,
Physical.
in a physical world, right? There's
Yes.
everything you can
Third
touch and you
dimension.
can feel it, right? Um, so the physical health was always very important. Yet, for example, yesterday for the podcast, I'm like, okay, I have to take some pictures because I want to make the logo, and I went to bed at 12.
Hmm.
Now I was too active in my mind to fall asleep, so I had like a tense sleep, and I knew that from before. And so I have a lot of these decisions where I'm doing, but I know health is very important. So I want to work out, I want to go in the fresh air, I want to have enough vitamin D, omega-3s, because I know these are very important elements in our body for general health. Now through the last three years, consciously and unconsciously much longer, the emotional health or the spiritual
Yeah.
health is also important. And yet I see myself not honoring those values I found out for myself. Do you know what could be in your experience with other people you have been coaching, right? You also have, I don't know, remember how many, 3, 4, 5 people you mentioned their story a bit throughout the book as
Yeah.
examples how different elements of your coachings are working and you can experience. What would you say to someone like me, which says, I have the feeling general health, body, mind, spirit is important, yet I'm not always respecting it?
Hmm. The missing ingredient is again the developing the discipline, which is again part of the self-love. How can you be kinder to yourself? Yes, you want to take good pictures, but then keeping yourself that busy and occupied is going to affect your sleep. So honoring you, so this is proof for other people. You know yourself better now. What would you not now? Here's the action part.
Mm.
What are you going to do differently next time so that you are able to sleep better because you honor your value of health?
Yeah.
And like, yes, sleep, mental health also, sleep also affects us emotionally. Like, you have a good sleep, you're not going to be grudgy in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, deep sleep is important. Oh, or you will take care to meditate before going to bed, something like that. Meditation is great for mental health, emotional well-being, because it helps you to regulate yourself emotionally. You don't take, you're not, you're able to witness your emotions and not be taken over by them. So they're not running the show for you.
Exactly. Oh, now you just opened 2 doors. I mean, I have that all the time when I'm people which listen to me, they know I'm getting triggered, and triggered in a positive way, right? Now let's call the trigger positive here, because triggers can be negative, and I know that out of own experience. Let's see if we get there.
Hmm.
One is the meditation. You talk a lot about meditations. I'm like curious how you define meditation and what meditation is. And the other one was emotional, awareness, basically,
Hmm.
because of being run by the emotions or run the emotions.
Hmm. Yeah. Meditation. So, meditation is a great tool that is at your disposal. Meditation helps you really get to know yourself. And I wouldn't say there is one right way and my way, the highway to do meditation. You have to try different things and stick to one that works for you. This is the message I will give to the listeners.
But
Do you have a
what
question?
is meditation? I mean, it's a good tool, but what is it? Is it
Yeah.
like calming your mind? Is it calming your breath? Is it calming your emotions? Is it, I know, as you say, there's many modalities. I mean, some people are visualizing a flame.
Yeah.
And right now I have the flame from Bethlehem here. I showed it to you before. And then all the thoughts and feelings and everything goes in that flame. But that's not for many people. Others are just imagining the void or looking at thoughts, looking at feelings. Others have heard, they just said, see all the thoughts. And in the beginning, it could be an hour. You sit there and you just let yourself be filled with all the thoughts and feelings you have until they dissipate. So, but what is it for you? These are like some examples that come up in my mind.
So I would say witnessing yourself. Meditation would be witnessing yourself and being as present as possible. And here is the interesting part. It doesn't necessarily, so meditation can be anything for anyone that makes them as present as possible. Fully present to yourself in your body, connected with your breath. Anything that may help someone do that and be with themselves and not judging, and the least, I would say, having the least number of thoughts, that's a meditative state.
Yeah, when you get there.
Or down. Now, whatever that is for anyone. For some, it comes to closing your eyes. For them, like how you say it, you're watching a candle. So you figure out one way and then you stick with that.
Yeah. Do you have any practice we could try in this episode?
Normally, I just to let you know and the listeners as well, for meditation to for you to start to feel the effect of meditation, it would take 20 minutes to get to that state. So I would be very happy to share on a different episode, because this particular one is wired for self-love, but I would have a gift for the listeners as well, because I have a guided meditation which I have recorded, and anyone that is starting off, choose a guided meditation, and like just start with that, because you don't know, and then you don't want to go like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Fight my thoughts, breathe, what? Or I was thinking about this, and oh my God, my friend did this, and not catching the tail of your thought and just going like running around that. You don't want to do that. That's why it's okay to start with guided meditations. And I'm happy to share that with your listeners as well. But meditation, okay, here's the thing. Give me a moment over here. Here's the thing that I would say for your listeners. Okay, find your breath. Follow your breath. Follow your breath. This is what I will say. Every single time you are distracted, you come back to wherever you were, whatever you were doing, sitting and doing your meditation, you will get distracted. And there is, just because you get distracted, oh no, I can't focus, I'm a bad meditator, blah, blah, blah. Again, that silly talk goes on in your mind and you're judging yourself. No, there isn't enough training. You haven't received enough training to do that, or you haven't trained yourself to sit with yourself. That's why when you come back to yourself, come back to your breath, start at your breath and follow your breath, that's when you will understand what you need to do and how you're going to, how when you go to the gym, you don't go to the gym for 6 hours a day and then for the rest of the week, nothing. You do it every day, and you take bath every day, you brush your teeth every day, same thing. You do it every single day. It's like flossing for the mind. And when you are doing this, like you're going to the gym and you are pumping iron or whatever it is you're doing, you're repeating that movement, you're building your muscle. Same thing. When you are sitting with yourself and coming back to yourself, remembering what were you doing? You were meditating. You will remember that, oh, this is how you will build that mindfulness muscle. This is where you're going to build the muscle and the strength to come back to yourself. And after some time, your thoughts, you just have the ability to witness them and be more present to yourself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's also what I've heard of different modalities. The more you do it, the more you can distinguish the different feelings, thoughts of yourself, right? So you start to understand yourself better. You start to see the feelings and thoughts you have during the day more, and the focus improves. I heard some people say, by actually meditating, you practice, your focus muscle as well.
Absolutely. You're able to strengthen your focus and stay more present to whatever it is that you're doing. It develops patience. How many patient people do you meet on a regular basis? Hello, listeners, you can tell me, you know, who can patiently sit there and listen to you and not react, not just they just be there, and instead not waiting for their turn to finish and say, okay, I'm ready to talk, and I'm just waiting for her to finish or him to finish, and then I want to say. But being patient, when you have the ability to be patient with yourself, you can be there for others. But you don't want to do it because you have to do that for others. First, you have to do that for yourself. This is the core essence lessons of self-love. If you
Mhm.
can't do that for yourself, how can you do it for others? How can
Yeah.
you hold that space for others?
So my podcasting is my self meditation because I practice to speak less and practice to wait longer for my guests to answer than I normally do. So people which
Mm.
only know me from the podcast, they will be surprised how much I'm talking when I'm not doing podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
You know that, right? Neha normally sends me like keep the voice messages on 2 minutes and not longer.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this is practice. This is, listeners are learning right here in this moment.
Yeah,
And that's you sharing your lesson. That's
yes.
beautiful.
So yeah, I have a few notes here on my list besides my really
Mm.
big mind map I made from reading the book. Uh, you talked before. Let's stay a little bit now. We went to the meditation and the core beliefs. You talked a bit about the I'm not good enough. You share a lot of these different stories throughout the book, and many of these
Mm.
stories I haven't heard. Right, we had the interview before, we had a few talks before the first interview and after the first interview, so I knew a few things,
Yeah.
but it was really, wow, it was really hard for me to hear some of the or read some of the things you mentioned from your childhood. I mean, some of your core beliefs, these negative core beliefs, you want to share some of these aha moments from you or from some of the people you mention in the book, so as examples?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So one of the stories I remember sharing um, was my not feeling safe. And I grew up in a very unsafe environment because I witnessed a lot of violence, and there was definitely abuse, physical, emotional, mental, and verbal abuse. So because of that, I felt emotional neglect growing up, which made me think that my needs are not important. And besides, if there is anger and violence, how safe is a child going to feel? I don't want to reveal all the details on the show because I would love for people to, uh, as you mentioned, like it's not easy to read, but this was I went through this. So and I want to, the reason why I talk about this easily and openly is because there is no, I want people to know that they have to, there is no shame about this. When you talk about your own story and share vulnerably uh, with others, then people will be able to relate with you. So I'm not this self-love guru who suddenly came out of somewhere without the experience of absolute self, it's like, self-hate. I did not like myself. I don't even know myself. That was my existence. I thought, because of what I had experienced and what I had seen, something like, being told you can't go to school, you're not studying, you're just useless, worthless, whatever. So this made me feel like I don't deserve my parents' love,
Mm.
and maybe I really did something wrong. Oh my God, I'm such a bad girl, I'm such a bad daughter, that I displeased my parents. So this becomes my behavior, for a very long time, where I'm people pleasing, right? A lot of people are into people pleasing. So why? Because hoping that once they're pleased, they're going to be better and I will get their love. We all want to be loved, but uh, that didn't happen for me. But does that mean just because that other person, even if it is my parent, they do not show love to me, does it mean I am unworthy of love? Right? That's, yeah, I am. That's absolutely the core belief that I challenged. And this is somewhere, this is the biggest, my awakening happened when I myself became a mother, you know and I remembered how I was about to repeat that same violence that I grew up watching. And I remember my hand going all the way back and about to whack my 2-year-old toddler. I said, what? And I witnessed what I saw in his eyes was terror. And I remember the same expression, the same feeling I felt, and how unsafe that is. And I said, how can I do this to my child? That's when I changed. So this thing that I carried with myself all of my growing years, and this was unconscious until the day I realized the story that I was telling myself. I never felt safe anywhere, on the streets. Even when I was growing up in Bahrain, and when I was in Mumbai, I did not feel safe on the streets as a woman, being, sexually molested or just eve teased, black, left, right, and center. So it was really unpleasant to experience that and not feel safe as a woman to walk on earth. So can you imagine? I am living that core belief. It's inside me in a vibrational state. I am unsafe. And this was stemming from childhood, what I had experienced because of violence that I saw. So how safe is a child going to feel if they watch their parents hitting them, or their siblings, or just fighting amongst each other as a couple, for example? How safe do they feel? And how do they feel about themselves and their future? Like, they have to be a certain way in order for to be loved, which means that they're acting as something else and someone else. They cannot be themselves. And can you imagine not being themselves for years of their life since childhood? What that does to a person, how much it disconnects them from themselves and who they are.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of flashes came through. Of course, mingled with what you wrote. You said, the thing with your not being allowed to go to school. You were 6, 7, 8 years old, very small, right? I mean, imagine that, like, your mom just took your books and you're not going to school because you're not practicing, you're not studying. Like, what? And then, I mean, a kid in that age, how can you? I mean, a kid in that age wants to do other things as well. Doesn't mean it's bad in school. So, and then you try to make it up for it, and you would just like, whatever, right? You have to excuse yourself, even though you tried the best, and you felt like you're so wrong and you're
Mm.
not safe. And then being on the streets, right? I'm a man. All these things have then influenced you. So, and you say you looked at your son like you wanted to smack him, and
Mm.
you saw the fear in his eyes. And not living yourself creates another personality, another identity. That's another thing you talk about: false
Yeah.
self and identity.
Yes, absolutely. So I was living for a very long period of time, like you mentioned, in a like I am not safe, I am not lovable, I am not good enough. All of those beliefs that I was living, you know. And so through a lot of reflection, meditation, I realized, but that didn't happen until after that wake up moment that I had, that moment that I just expressed to you, explained to you, that what I witnessed in my son's eyes. And that was a wake up moment. And then I said, I have to change, and I have to be a better person. I'm going to be a better mother. It was a promise I had made to myself when I was 11 years old. So that was a remembrance of that. It was like an aha moment that I talk about also in one of the books, or one of the chapters. And then like the developing that identity, so that it doesn't happen like, okay, I have to be this person and I have to do different things. No, you are already starting to be a different person completely since day one, because you have to change. You can't be in two places at the same time. This is when I talk about the identity. You have to adopt and already start to be in a different way. So if I am a kinder mother, how do I act? If I am going to speak kinder words, what am I saying? If I am going to show more love, how am I going to do that? I have to literally stop myself from saying and criticizing, because all I remember and know since childhood, because that's what I heard, that was my programming, seeing the negative, only seeing and looking at the negative in a person. And that's what, like I was told, all criticism. That's something I grew up with. And what is good about me? I have no idea. That, but does that mean it doesn't exist in me? I found out, no, it does exist, but I can't bring it out. It's underneath the layers of those beliefs that I have, and I find that out. So when I started to reflect on who it is that I have to become, because I know I want to be a better mother, that's when I came to know, oh my goodness, I don't even have my own identity. I was a daughter, and then I became a wife, and then I became a mother, someone's daughter-in-law, blah, blah, blah. Who am I to myself? Who am I as a woman? Who am I? I didn't know that. So this was huge for me. And so it's like you taking on a different identity. It's you giving yourself the power to be different. So and then and through the process of getting to know yourself, you remove the false, the thing that you are not, and become the thing that you are.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's a core part of many spiritual or personal teachings, right? To
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of the layers of false self, wrong
Yeah.
identity, to bring forth your true self. And that's also the podcast is a lot about, from depression to expression. It's like
Mm-hmm.
from these dark places of not being able to express yourself, not able to be. And I think, let's see if how you see it. But in this talk we have now, I see
Mm-hmm.
depression as a the depression is basically the expression of being a wrong, false self, not having the right identity, and suppressing yourself by the layers of wrong core beliefs of I'm not good enough, I'm not safe, I'm a woman, I cannot do this, work is like that, earning money is like that, expressing yourself should be like this, when I'm a woman I have to act like this and that and this way. And we know, I mean, I just remember Tim Ferriss again when he talks about being an American, go to Japan and then being plunged into Japan classes without English, and he was like, what the fuck? And then seeing how in Japan things are so completely different than in America. I'm sure he lost a lot of core beliefs by being exposed to that. But if we are still in the same culture, still in the same environment, we are not really externally seeing that these core beliefs sometimes are not true. I mean, yes, I'm not good enough, etc. That can be all around the world. But I mean, basically how a woman has to live a life in society is completely different depending where you are in the world. The same for a man, the same for a child, the same for work relationships between a boss and the employees is so different depending where you are in the world. But if you stay in your bubble, it's reinforced, right? So depression is then, believing all these core beliefs, not being yourself, being a wrong person, and therefore you cannot express. And when you can remove these layers, and for you, one of the core elements is meditation. It could be also other spiritual teachings. It could be trauma treatment. It could be art treatment. It could be tantra, and so on and so forth, right? There's a lot of modalities which can help you to remove some of these identities and core beliefs. And by that, you then come out and you start to love yourself better. And you call it also, there's a habit of discipline. You need to be disciplined about self-love and do the things. And then self-acceptance will come, and then self-love will come forward. And by that, you're more yourself, and automatically you will express yourself more. So basically, that's the path from depression to expression, by removing the false self. Did I get that right from the talk so far?
I think so. I mean, I won't know fully because I don't think I've ever received like a depression diagnosis, but I won't be surprised if I may have had some of that. I think anybody who has lived in that little bubble may have some elements of those. So I did have really, really sad thoughts, definitely, and thought differently of myself. This is years ago. But I know, besides treating depression through, I'm not trained to speak that on that so much, but I know how helpful meditation can be for mental health, and it's not, I would say it should be prescribed more often than the pills. If people practice meditation, they can overcome a lot. But I have to say one thing about meditation. It helped me, but I stayed stuck as well. It's the action that we take after the realization. That's where we start to do the rewiring. My book is called Wired for Self-Love. So when you take on that new identity, so Oliver Chirac, who is Oliver Chirac without the depressive thoughts? Who could he possibly be? If he were to express, what would he express, for example? And if he were to create something, what would he create? How would he be? All of those things. So if you can put yourself in a place where you can imagine that and make that list of things, then you can start to practice those. As the more you start to practice those, and you can take on different identities. We do have, my identity as a mother, my identity as a coach, my identity as a wife, my identity as a mother. So many different, same person, but I have different identities. And then how can I be a better mom? How can I be a better person? How can I be a better coach? How can I be a better speaker? All of those things.
Yeah.
These, you can, different identities, but then so you choose, you pick on one, and then you start to work on those. So I would say that yes, I think what you were sharing with regards to depression, that may be very true. And there, it is possible to bring yourself out, because I have also, I remember I became very creative, and when I was in a creative mode, I lost all sense of self, and I was very happy. So if I can feel this way, I believe others can also feel that. And maybe if everyone is prescribed meditation, they can have if they really really need that medicine, they could. But if they are practicing meditation, at least try it out. It is non-intrusive, and it's got nothing to do with any religion whatsoever. I only focus on the breath, and everybody breathes. so so just focus on your breath and follow your breath, and see what you can discover about yourself.
Yeah, I remember now that you said it, you mentioned in the book as well that a trigger for many people is meditation somehow feels connected to any religion, right? So people from whatever religion they are, they say, yeah, but meditation is, I don't know, yogi style or Buddhistic or whatever it is, but it's not. It's all religion. I mean, praying to some degree is a meditation, I would say. But of course, there's of course differences, but they're very similar. I mean, looking at Jesus's words, I've been listening to many. I'm like, wow, that actually makes sense, right? The way he apparently has explained it, it's basically a meditation, right? Fill your heart with love and acceptance and gratitude.
Yeah.
It's kind of also a meditation, right? It's a gratitude journal. When you really feel the gratitude, you forget everything else. Like you said, when you were truly creative, you forgot yourself and you were happy. So I think
Yes.
when you really focus on what you have and what you're grateful for, kind of something similar is happening there.
Yeah, and it's a different vibrational state.
Yeah, a vibration. I mean, it's so difficult to explain it differently because you feel it in your body. It's kind of like this warm feeling around the chest. It's kind of right. It's kind of like it really feels like a vibration. So how to explain it differently? It's hard.
Yeah, and I love that you say it's you feel it in the body. A lot of the time, people remain so much up in their head, and the mind. And then I don't know if this is mentioned in the, like, I don't think it's mentioned in the book, but the mind has been given way too much power, as if it's the be all and end all. But staying up here, you and people start to think about their emotions, rather than feeling them.
And that's about emotional awareness. I mean, don't remember if we actually really talked about it, but what is your take on emotional awareness? That's the start of this new podcast series, because I broke my hand because I was, yeah, of course, somehow I was aware of my anger, frustration, but the deeper emotions below that, I still don't know.
Yes. Mm.
After I got the screws out of the hand, I came in a similar situation where I just wanted to slam the hand in the wall. I felt Hulk is doing it as well. He can just redesign the whole apartment. So why can I not? Yeah, because I'm not that strong. And I just was able to hold in. I'm like, okay, what do I feel? And there was nothing. There was just this emptiness. And I'm like, okay, weird, strange, right? So there are layers underneath to, there's a lot of work to be more aware of emotions. And as you said, meditation is one way to go. What
Yeah.
did you actually learn? I mean, the one question following the whole interview now, when after you presented the path for writing, right? Not the why, but how you just kind of stumbled into it and all the procrastination. What did you learn through the process of writing that as a person? How did you change as a person? More aware of certain things, or what changed for you?
Definitely more aware. But why I say writing this book changed me is because I know now that writing is powerful, but it would be this powerful, I didn't know. But there is this one chapter, this is trivia, like just interesting information for the listeners. I got feedback from writing the first draft. And so there is this one chapter on shadow work. I talk about integrating the shadow. Um, and I think it's chapter 8 or something. So I wrote that chapter and I got feedback from my coach. He said, my book coach, he said, what, this is a very well written chapter. What did you do differently here? And I want you to, whatever it is that you have applied to this chapter, go and apply to every other chapter. I'm like, okay. So I will tell you this, and all the listeners as well. Right. So every single sentence I wrote in that chapter, I did not realize until that point, until I had gotten that feedback, that I felt each and every sentence I wrote in the process of shadow work. Because I talk about how all those steps, I can't, it's a very different state of mind. I have to feel it and then I have to write it. Very different state of mind. I was blown away by that information that I received. I'm like, wow, I can't. And right now, if I have to tell you about shadow work, I have to go into that feeling in order to talk about it. Can you believe that? I
Okay,
have to go. Yeah.
I won't ask you then about the shadow work. No, but I mean, as I said, you have so many chapters and so many tools. I mean,
Yeah.
It would take way too long to discuss everything. But the shadow work, definitely, honestly, now that you mention it, this was one of the chapters to say, wow, this is so simple explained. And for the people which do not know shadow work, which are new because they saw depression to expression, because there's another podcast called Depression to Expression. So I call it From, because I feel this is so simplified of what I tried to get. I couldn't figure out of a title, but this is basically really short explaining what I'm looking for is helping people, right? And so if you're just drawn to it because of the title, shadow work, there's like, I've seen the integral methodology from Ken Wilber is very deep, very complicated. But in the end, what you say, it's just the simplicity of it. As I said, the whole book is written so simple for anyone to apply it. Really, all these different practices are really simplified, I think. So shadow is anything that triggers you, anything that you are criticizing in other people, sometimes in yourself, and you do not want to accept in yourself. But you can also have a light shadow. That's what I learned from Ken Wilber, which makes sense. Everything you're jealous in other people, that they are doing something. Or look at how good they are drawing or painting, because that's a part of yourself you want to express, but for some reason, false self, wrong identity, wrong core beliefs, you're not expressing them, but you feel triggered in a jealous way. Right? Oh, I would love to, but I cannot. Or, you put posters up all your room about these people and you're just worshiping them. You put them on a pedestal. Let's say, I don't know. I grew up with Schwarzenegger, Stallone. That's coming up into my mind. And that's just what comes to mind. Michael Jackson for someone else, big guy. They probably had the whole room full of Michael Jackson pictures. And they probably are very good in dancing or singing, but they do not do it because their parents, their friends are bringing them down. So that's a light shadow. Other things where you really get this, oh, that person always does this. It's a part you do not accept inside yourself. And of course, it's about accepting these shadows so you can transfer them, so you get over them. But read the book about the shadow work. That's definitely one of the chapters which I said, this is very good. Plus the values. That was also very interesting. And Ikigai, what is this Japanese?
Ikigai.
Ikigai. you
Ikigai. Yeah.
ikigai, you really put it up and like, wow, this graphic we see for so many different coaches, and it's wrong because they
Yeah.
just put it together and someone had a big book which has been sold and now everyone uses that diagram. That's also very nicely described in the book. I guess that's from your research you did, or
Absolutely. And so whenever I see, and oftentimes, for both of us, we're present on LinkedIn. Um, I see many coaches going in and like, talking, just literally picking up that diagram from Google and throwing it on LinkedIn and talking about, I'm going to take you through this journey. I'm like, my goodness, oh, those people, they have no idea. They need to read my book.
yeah, you're gonna share it, right? You've write
I
some
have.
posts.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have. And so, like for your listeners, I loved because when I came across shadow work, I can't remember how I stumbled across it, but that work blew me away. And the more like this is the most important part because it helps you integrate parts of you that you do that you just put like parts of you that you don't want to accept. They can be good and they can be bad, they can be ugly, doesn't matter. Even good parts about you, because somebody kind of put that in the darkness and they presented it to you in a very different light, you say maybe that's not the best and all that stuff. So somebody, you drew a piece of art and for a 5-year-old you drew a masterpiece, oh my god, but your teacher said, oh, you could have done better, this color would have been better, blah blah, whatever. That teacher was mindless about their comment on a 5-year-old's book on work. But you took that belief, and then now because that teacher said something someone said years ago, you say, no, I'm not a good artist. So you suppress that art, right? So that's where you challenge that core belief, where that core belief is coming from, and then doing the steps of shadow work. I found a lot of material, but the process that I talk about is something that I write from my understanding of it. So there can be tons of information and it can be very confusing. But if you want, I like to keep things simple because jargon can throw people off. And I don't want that happening because I personally don't like it myself as well. If I have to refer to the dictionary every 10 words or so. So I love to keep it simple. And thank you for bringing up that the shadow work and the ikigai as well. Yes. So yes, I actually did ikigai for myself as well. And then that's when I was doing the research for the book, when I came to know, oh wow, this is great. So this is not the true picture. This is not everything. And then I was into researching that. So, and then I also understood what I was doing with that information. Like, okay, there is some amount of truth to that, the ikigai, but then everything about everything today is so commercialized, right? But is that the true value in it? Are you going to get, okay, I can absolutely enjoy this cup of tea, or am I going to make money out of drinking tea? Like, why does everything have to become about money? In a way, does everything have to be that everything you that brings you pleasure have to be about that?
Mhm.
No, and if it is that, like, is it also in alignment with you, right? So you have to ask yourself these questions, and from that identity, what all you can do. So I have the whole grand picture for everybody to mix their ikigai and their identity and marry those things.
Yeah, but exactly, it's ikigai. It's a lot about, like, what are you really naturally good at? What do you love to do? Where can you earn money? And everything is connected in this graph, which is shared. But the original one does not connect everything to make money. It's just like what brings you joy as well, right? Where can you
Mm.
fulfill your life?
Yeah, it's separate.
Yeah,
It's
it's
separate.
separate, right?
Yes.
So okay, this is where I really fill myself up with
Mm.
joy, with lightness, with creativity. And here is where I really can do this and that for earning money. And here's where I really can give back to other people, which is not always the same, right? So I did the exercise on my PDF. I could write stuff in, so I did that. Not as nicely drawn, but at least text wise. So I enjoyed that part as well. Seeing it in a different way, it's kind of liberating, right? Because like, okay, I don't have to think about making money all the time. So that's how it is. But any other aha moments from writing the book or coaching other people around, self-love we didn't touch upon?
There was this. I'm a firm believer because I thanks for bringing up this question, Oliver, and for the listeners. This is, I believe in the power of sharing your story, because the day I shared my story, like this is where I figured out I am unsafe, through the process of telling, like myself, revealing to myself my own story. What was my core story? What was running my show? I am unsafe. That was a huge aha moment. And people, this is the reason why I have storytelling and public speaking. This is something that I'm like, when people talk on platforms, huge or small, doesn't matter, but how much they are in alignment with themselves. So much of public speaking has to be in complete alignment on the inside, because your body language explains and gives away everything. If you are pacing the stage left, right, and left to right, left to right, it's nervous energy. If you stand in one place, you stand in your power, that is you knowing what you have to say. Again, a lot of people are very quick to speak whatever it is they want to say, and people think that, oh, if this person is able to talk to very quickly, they are powerful in a way, or whatever, or if they're like, Tony Robbins, rah 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 rah. I know there must be some listeners who are Tony Robbins fans and all that stuff. Not saying that's wrong, but here's the thing: if everybody's going rah rah rah, that doesn't necessarily mean confidence. Don't confuse that. Confidence doesn't come from, being able to show you are like this and like that. No, it comes from knowing yourself as well, and being in alignment with yourself and getting to know yourself. And here's the thing: when I talk about public speaking, people, when they pause, especially people are very afraid of silence. But with meditation, you get so comfortable, and it is very important, so comfortable with pausing, that people know what is about to come after that pause is very important. So they will be prepared to listen, and they're going to absorb that information, because where is that coming from? It is coming from the speaker, from a place of deep knowing. That's where the confidence comes, and that's where they're going to believe the speaker when they share their story. And now when it comes to sharing the story, I talk about, okay, so I had this client I worked with. She was interested in telling her story. So I have a whole public speaking program. I call it the Ultimate Public Speaking Blueprint. And within that, I also have just the Ultimate Storytelling Blueprint. So she was interested in that. We worked for 5 weeks, Oliver. And for the listeners, this is information. This was a very young girl who had not had her period in 10 years. So there is a condition, a body condition, maybe where the weight is so low, for whatever reason, her identity was tied to that. Through the story, we came to know about that. In the process of revealing the story, we came to know about that. And so while she's in those sessions with me, I help her show love to herself, show kindness to herself. And so this is what she experienced. And exactly a month ago, I check in with her I asked her, how are you doing? Because she mentioned to me she was doing something about the period thing. She said, I'm taking traditional Chinese medication, but I don't think, and my period came back. That's what she said.
Mhm.
So this is why I'm sharing the story with the listeners, is because that's how powerful I know self-love can be. And especially if you are looking for a coach, you want to look for a coach. And if you've had unsafe or judgmental people around you, toxic relationships, if you want to find somebody who you can work with, I will offer you to work with someone you feel the safest, and someone who's not going to judge you. And when you are held in that space, miracles happen. And this is the miracle that happened for a woman who was not getting her period for 10 years. So when I checked in with her, she said, my period did come back, but it was not big. I don't think it was because of the traditional Chinese medication. I think it was because of the self-love and self-acceptance.
Mhm. And
That's a
this,
huge, huge testimonial.
yes, so that means it shows like that you give the space um, to the people you're coaching to find themselves and love themselves. It's also a bit Eckhart Tolle. When I read his book, he thought he's a healer until he realized it's the space he gives the people he's with,
Yes,
the non-judgmental
yes,
presence.
yes,
Um, and I think, when you mention Tony Robbins, I can see how powerful, and he is confident in what he's doing, but that's his way. It's
yeah,
his expression, and that's what you probably meant. It's not everyone has that way of expressing himself or herself.
yeah.
So do not aim to be him. um, and I've not been in any class with him, but I've talked to 2-3 people, and one didn't believe in his energy, and he's just said he was there and he could feel him. Even though he couldn't see him, he expected him to come from the stage, from the front, but he came from the back, and he could just simply feel Tony Robbins's presence, because he's so much in his body that he's
Mm.
spreading it out, right? Fill your cup first, whatever it means, however you want to share. I don't know. Stephen King is probably expressing himself through the book writing of these horror stories. So people are actually really drawn into these stories and they really feel them because it's his
Mm.
true expression.
Mm.
Whatever. I mean, he's probably getting rid of a lot of traumatic experiences by writing these things. I do not know. I've not heard him in an interview, but this is true. So what I get out of this interview so far is, writing is powerful. I had an interview yesterday, which will come after that show, due to your book, which comes out. And she also said, Oliver, write down, start journaling, start asking yourself these 3-4 questions, and just start writing. Tim
Mm.
Ferriss is talking about that. I mean, since we are 2021, I listened to him in 2013, so that must be like 5-6 years. Morning or evening journal, just write. Somehow something is holding me back. Writing a book for you, said you learn so much because it's so powerful. I'm like, should I write? I had this idea, but there's no idea in the head what to write about. And you said you didn't believe that you will write anything before you're 50. And now you have your book, and it has been so liberating. The power of meditation, of getting to know your feelings, your thoughts, your being, what's happening inside your body, inside your head, the mind, the shadows, false identities, ikigai, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn it. Depression, self-expression, the inner conflicts we have, your stories. It's so much. But there's one thing which I've been writing big down, and we have not really talked about it. The asking the questions with yourself. Never use why,
Mm.
but use what and how instead of.
Yes. You okay, so why is a very good question. We don't want to put it away completely.
Yes.
But here's why I it's a very good point that you're bringing up. And this is something I realized when I was communicating with my son. So I have training in coaching with an institute called Coach You. And so you ask different sets of questions. And then instead of saying, like, what questions, they help you help people think in a different way, and you start to think about it. Okay, what can help me? So you think one, two, three. You think a little bit more strategically, um, and allow yourself to think in a certain different way. When you put the question, especially if you have been judged, and let's say you are, as a child, you've been judged, and people continue to ask you, Oliver, why are you doing this? And then there is a certain tone. Of course, there is a certain tone in a way you can say, I can ask very nicely, why is it that you are doing blah blah blah? And there is, this is gentle, but then why can also, people may question, oh, why is something wrong? Like, why? Oh, because they are so used to being judged, they start to judge themselves. And this can hold them back. It's a good question, but here's where the meditation, if you practice that, then you may be better able to handle a question why and be able to pose it in a very sensible and sensitive way. So your language changes completely, language toward yourself, a language for others. So this is where I also understand patterns, word patterns people use, and toward to themselves when they're speaking, and when they're speaking to me, I'm able to note these. And that's language of the subconscious. And so the question you're asking, the what and the how, those are better to ask, especially if you're someone who has not practiced meditation enough for you to hold yourself in a non-judgmental space.
Yeah. So when
So
you're not,
that,
when you're not yet in through meditation or whatever you make, so you're still judging yourself. So you should not use why.
yeah.
I just came up yesterday. I bought a stone ring a few years back, really nice, and then I was wearing it a few days, and I told my daughter and my son when they looked at it, please do not drop it. This is stone, not metal. It will break. And yesterday I found it in my fitness bag because I couldn't see it. I'm like, oh, I wanted to wear it, and it dropped from my hand, and of course 6 pieces.
Oh no.
And those, of course, are then like, why did that happen, right? So if you're in a judgmental state, you're like, because you're always uncareful, because you're clumsy, because the things you like are falling down, etc., etc.
Exactly.
But then I was looking at it, and I was on the phone with a friend because of Christmas shoppings, and then I'm like, okay, whatever. I loved it, but I went and got the 5 or 6 pieces I found. I don't know if there were more. It was in the gym, and I threw them away, and that's it. I'm of course sad, but that also comes then with, we are connected to material things, right? And then you can see immediately, oh, this is just a ring. It's probably $10 or $20 or whatever I paid. I have no idea how much it cost. But then you get like so connected to this material thing. And I guess meditation is one of the modalities. Qigong or Tai Chi or whatever else can help you to actually disconnect yourself from this material connection and the self-judgment. I think that comes hand in hand to some degree. And that's why the why question is probably negative before you actually can, hold the space of non-judgmental being and self-awareness, right? Emotional awareness. Then you can say, why? Oh, because I feel like that. Okay, why do I feel like that? Because of that. And then you go deeper and you can actually realize your emotions. Then the why is okay, if you're not judging the answers you get.
Yes, and that's in a different space where, like, you're not up in the mind, but more coming from a place of kindness to kindness and compassion for yourself.
Yes, I think we took the whole circle. I
Tour
think,
of
right?
the book.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to learn. I mean, you have the different steps. Take step 1, 2, 3, or 5, and the values where you have the different values where you go and you highlight 20 values
Mhm.
out of whatever 50 values you have or something like that. And then you choose the 5 highest. And I realized my values are very connected to yours, even though I had similar values, which for me almost mean the same. And other exercises, it's really, really good. And you also mention in the book, if the reader just gets one exercise out of it from all these different exercises you have, you're more than pleased because the people will have something. And I also wrote in my review, I think you read the book, at least for me, for my personality, is reading the book and trying to apply a few of these exercises, see how they feel, right? Like
Mhm.
wearing a new clothes and then t-shirt, pullover, jacket, feel how it feels, and go through the whole thing so you kind of get a picture of the whole, how it's put together.
Yeah.
Because it's not, depending where you're on your journey, right? You know a bit of everything, but then you feel like, oh, here I can feel I get more out of it. You use that tool until
Yeah.
it's part of you. And then you can
Yeah.
go back to the book and then feel what other exercise does feel right at the moment. And then you focus on that exercise. And that's
Yeah.
how I was reading it.
Yeah. It's something that you can come back to. So there's lots and lots of tools, something like a coffee table book
Yes, it
to
should be.
come back to.
I don't have these coffee table things anymore. The books are read and then I put in the shelf and then they're gone. And I realized that with many, many books, that I should have like a nice coffee table where I have like 1 or 2 books, and then, whenever, take it up and go through
Yeah.
it. So you mentioned in the pre-show, let's see, I mean, whenever my podcast is running and the things are in place, I'm also having an account on, what was it called? Not Go. It's always going GoDaddy in my head.
Patreon.
In Patreon,
Patreon.
yeah, in
Yeah.
Patreon. I do not know yet what to offer there, but it could be like a pre-show or like a after show, so people can ask questions to the guests I have, which after the podcast. So we would stop the podcast and then people have 15-20 minutes to ask questions. I don't know yet.
Mm, that's
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, well, right. And now I don't know where I'm going because the talk was long. That's awesome. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, so we can talk about different questions there. But the book, generally, as I said, it's great. It's to be reread. And yeah, what we said in the pre-show. There we go. Sometimes I need some kind of bridges in my head. We mentioned that you launched the book the first week of the launch, which is end of November 2021. If you listen to
Yes.
this episode in 2030, Neha is a bit older than me as well. I have more gray hair by then and probably also written a book. But the ones which listen it when it comes out, it's 99 cents as a Kindle version.
Yes.
And you also plan to have the printed version. When is that planned actually?
Um, my birthday is coming in January, so I think it's going to be a good gift to align, and it's good to have the book come out. It's good to have, like, some feedback about the book, get the book like to review and create some sort of yes, excitement about it. Let it build. Of course, like, December, it's a holiday season, blah, blah, blah. January comes and goes very quickly. So I think by the end of January, people were like, oh, we need to do something about this whole gym membership that I signed up for, or something that I said I'm going to be. I think that's when I'm like, okay, this year is going to be my 2022 is going to be my Wire for Self-Love book, and we're going to get the physical copy of this book.
Okay, so
I think
January.
I think I think my that's going to be my birthday gift for myself and the rest of the world.
Mhm.
It's
Who
a
knows?
physical book.
I mean, who knows if you get feedback which will add some to version 2 or something like that? You never know. But you got already
Maybe, yeah.
feedback and you edited, and
Yeah, I
so
appreciate your feedback. It's so nice. So, like, I'm so glad to hear that it's working for people. So I mentioned in like in the book itself, it's not just one exercise, but 1 to 2% integrated. What I mean by that for your listeners, like if what you get out of this book is like slowly you are a little bit more of you, you're more wholesome, and the world is going to benefit from your bringing your whole self, and the work that you do with getting to know yourself and shadow work and integrating the parts of you that you do not love about yourself to the parts that you love about yourself but you have hidden. When you bring all of that in and come from that place, you're a more whole person. Can a more whole person give more of themselves to the world? Absolutely. And that is what I would love to for it to happen for you
Yes. So you can
the most.
express yourself, right? Go from the depression to self-expression by self-loving, self-accepting. And imagine you're a parent. I'm a parent of 2 kids. And you said the, the, the look from your son's eyes when you were being your mom, but you're not your mom, was just like this awakening moment. And in the other episode, we talked on the Oliver Shearer show, which we will link to, you talk about your awakening in the desert of Jordan, I think it was, where you were in the middle
Mhm.
of the night, in the middle of the desert. Yes, you were there camping with other people, but still, it was an aha moment. So these 2 moments, uh, it's just so important when you're a parent, even though your kids might be grown up, but you have this self-realization about who you truly are, and you're just so much more calm, less
Yes.
judgmental, more accepting. Imagine the ripple effect you have through your kids. Now you raise kids which will not take drugs mindlessly, do violence mindlessly. They might, because you're not yourself and you're aggressive or judgmental or whatever, they might go and hurt other people because of
Mhm.
how you act with them. And
Mm.
these other hurt teenagers, whatever, will then go up and whatever, it might start wars, right? I mean, look at the politicians, the insecurity people have, and because you're insecure, so you need to suppress someone else. And by having self-love, you won't need that. And so it's a
Yeah.
big ripple effect. You're more accepting of yourself, you're more accepting of the people, you're more accepting of that stupid fucking idiot in front of you at the traffic, which was cutting your way away, instead of being all low in energy and you're not enjoying the dinner with your family because of that person. You're now sending love and acceptance because you see that person differently, because you accept yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And then because of that, the you and especially parents, you I'm so glad you brought this up, because if you are in an empowered place yourself, think about how you're going to pass that on to your children. It's a
Yeah.
huge responsibility as a parent, and that's how you can empower. So you don't necessarily, so having power is one thing. And this is where I talk about, I think towards the final chapter, I talk about where all this can be applied. And so within organizations or even institutes where people employ power to suppress, like how you're saying, instead of using, because they don't know their power. And once they know their power and they are able to empower others, is there need to suppress others? No, there isn't. And the whole world changes because of how you conduct yourself in a better way.
Yes. And yeah, especially at workplaces, the acceptance that people are more productive on different times of the day would be just so beautiful to see, because some people are morning people. They're just super productive between 7 and 9 or 6 and 9. I have no idea. Definitely not me. And other people are super productive in the evenings. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
struggling a lot with my kids. I had more patience for the kids in the morning because, there was nothing to expect it from a 1-year-old or 2-year-old, but just to be there. But I had to deliver them to daycare because they had to be there not later than 9 because of all the activities happened before 12, but you could pick them up at 12. And I started getting stressed because around 1, 2 o'clock, I started to be more productive. I can see it now with the broken hand. Mornings just fly by and it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And then I start to be productive. And then I have my kids because I'm divorced now. Suddenly the kids are coming here 1, 2, 3 times a week, or something else happens, and then I'm getting completely frustrated. But for me, my productivity time is in the afternoon somehow. Right. So for me, it should be the workout, the meditation, the whatever leisure thing should be in the morning. And then in the afternoon should be like the productivity, because now I have done the fun parts there. But that's me, right? And another person is probably from 6 to 10 in the evening. They're super active, like these. A lot of the writers, not everyone, but I've heard in podcasts, they write in the evenings. They're night owls.
I do. Yeah.
Right. So they're night owls. And then being an author, you can write whenever. But of course, there might also be the early bird authors. They get up in the morning and just start writing because that's what is right for them. But being self-employed gives you this freedom. But now in a workspace, having this acceptance would be just beautiful. But this would change the core belief of how industrialization works, business works, how to work around the planet, right? So you would have to break that core belief. And for that, we need more people which self-accept themselves, love and don't judge, and give the space. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to stop here, otherwise we continue for hours. But Neha, how can people reach out to you?
My website is called nehasonney.com. Please go and buy the book. The link is in Oliver Chirag's show notes. And then, get in touch. There's many ways you can get in touch in the book itself. I have free resources you can find, and you can email me on my website. Yes, I do send out newsletters, so you can subscribe. Yes, I have a free gift also in my book. It's nehasonney.com/free, and so you can subscribe to that. You're part of my newsletters, and I keep you updated with all the goodies and self-love.
Yeah, and there's LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know how we connected. If we connected over LinkedIn or Instagram.
First, we connected over LinkedIn.
Yeah. Through Mind Valley, I guess, and stuff like that.
I think so.
And Instagram, you had a lot of videos on Instagram lately. I've seen.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't been there all the time. Hong Kong is not. It's my morning walk in the forest.
No worries at all. Yeah, but, LinkedIn is one of the best ways. LinkedIn and my website is more than enough.
Yes. So, but we put the links as usual in my show notes. Sure. And with that, thank you so much, Neha. This was awesome. It was a bit crisscross, but we took it as it came, right? We took the topics as they presented themselves, and it was beautiful. Loving.
Thank you so much for having me, Oliver. And thank you for the listeners. I hope you get the maximum value from this episode, whatever Oliver shares. And I hope Wired for Self-Love does for you whatever I did for Oliver, and much, much more. Thank you.